Have you ever noticed how your day begins to mirror your first thought the moment you open your eyes? Whether you expect struggle or ease, life somehow rises to meet that quiet assumption. What if this is not coincidence but design? What if your belief is not just an inner mood, but a signal that shapes what arrives? To act as if everything always works out for you is not denial. It is the highest form of presence. A decision to meet life not with fear, but with trust. Not because every path is smooth, but because every path holds purpose. In this journey, we are not chasing fantasies. We are reclaiming a discipline the Stoics knew well, the power to meet reality with a steady mind and an open heart. Stay with me. What you're about to hear may not only shift your thinking, it may shift your life. 1. Perception shapes reality. You do not experience life as it truly is. You experience it as you are. This truth, quiet and enduring, rests beneath every judgment you make, every reaction you feel, and every story you silently repeat. Perception is not a neutral lens. It is an active force, shaping the very reality it observes. The outer world bends to the convictions of the inner world. So when you choose to act as if everything always works out for you, you are not ignoring reality. You are altering the lens through which reality responds. This is not fantasy. It is a shift in presence. You begin to align your gaze, your posture, and your emotion with something higher than fear. And that subtle adjustment transforms your world. Not by force, but by resonance. The Stoics taught us that external events do not disturb us. It is our judgment about them that causes the turmoil. If you walk into a storm expecting to be destroyed, you will brace, shrink, and close. But if you step into the same storm with the awareness that it is forging your character, you emerge not broken, but sharpened. The storm is the same, the outcome is not, because perception reframes experience. A woman once confided in me that her life seemed cursed. Missed buses, broken relationships, lost chances. She believed, deeply, that life had singled her out for failure. But one question changed her. What if life wasn't punishing her but preparing her? What if every delay held a hidden redirection? Every loss an invitation to step closer to her true path. She didn't change overnight, but she allowed that new belief to take root. And with time, her life began to shift. Not because fate improved, but because her sight deepened. Years later, she stood fulfilled in a life she once thought impossible. It wasn't luck, it was perception, chosen again and again. The way you perceive the world impacts your nervous system, your posture, your openness. When you believe you are under threat, your mind becomes a fortress. But when you believe that life is guiding you, your heart opens. You stop reacting with suspicion and begin responding with clarity. You no longer miss the quiet opportunities hiding in discomfort. You become magnetic, not by effort, but by alignment. People feel that shift. They respond not to what you say, but to the calm conviction behind your presence. This belief is not naive, it is courageous. Life does not promise certainty, but it always offers you the choice to hold your posture with purpose. The Stoics would ask, what story do you tell yourself when chaos visits? That question matters more than the chaos itself, because it determines whether you fall into despair or rise through meaning. So today, choose the lens that serves your highest self. What if every closed door was protection? What if every slow season was a preparation? What if the world is not against you, but waiting for you to see it differently? You do not need to see the whole path, but you do need to choose who you are as you walk it. The story you carry today will shape the world you meet tomorrow. Choose wisely. 2. Awaken the inner hero. Within every one of us lives a hidden force, a silent strength waiting for the right moment to awaken. Life, in its rawest form, is a series of tests, and within these trials, Stoic wisdom reminds us that we are not victims of fate, but participants in the unfolding of our character. The mind is not a fragile container to be protected from hardship. It is a forge where the truest parts of us are revealed and strengthened. When you choose to act as if everything always works out for you, you are not escaping reality. You are summoning the most noble part of yourself. You are calling forward the inner hero who dares to engage life, not in denial of suffering, but in defiance of despair. This hero does not emerge in moments of comfort. They appear in the wilderness of uncertainty. They are born not from the absence of fear, but from the decision to keep moving in spite of it. The Stoics taught that adversity does not create weakness. It reveals potential. The fire does not destroy you unless you refuse to walk through it. And so, to live with the inner posture that life supports your growth even through pain is not to lie to yourself. It is to align with the truth that your response is always more powerful than the event itself. We have all heard stories of great transformation, but these are not fairy tales. They are reflections of a deeper truth within the human spirit. One man loses his job after years of dedication. He feels abandoned, humiliated, discarded, and for a time, he grieves. But then something shifts. He asks a different question. Not why did this happen to me, but what is this calling me to become? That single shift reorients the mind from helplessness to authorship. In this case, the man began learning again. He reconnected with passions long buried under duty. He built a career not just of survival, but of purpose, and it was the fall that made space for the rise. The fire did not consume him. It refined him. The Stoic does not wait for external proof before taking action. They know that certainty is a luxury, but courage is a responsibility. Just as the ancient hero steps into the unknown without a map, the Stoic walks into each day not demanding ease, but bringing readiness. When you walk through rejection, disappointment, illness, or failure, and still choose to believe something is being formed in you, you are not pretending. You are practicing courage. You are training the soul to interpret pain not as punishment, but as preparation. It is tempting to collapse into victimhood when life cuts deep. But the Stoic does not ask why me with resentment. They ask it with purpose. What lesson is hidden here? What part of me is being called to mature? This mindset does not erase the suffering. It gives it structure. It transforms chaos into meaning. It allows the soul to step forward with dignity, even in defeat. The hero within you is not waiting for your life to be perfect. They are waiting for you to stop postponing your strength. And there is something else. When you carry this inner belief, the world responds. People sense when someone walks not in arrogance, but in grounded faith. They are drawn to the stillness that says, I do not need the outcome to be certain to take the next step. I am not ruled by fear. I am ruled by purpose. This presence commands respect, not because it seeks attention, but because it reveals something rare. It is the quality of a person who is no longer at war with what is. They are at peace with the process. To act as if everything always works out for you is not to expect ease, but to expect growth. It is to meet each obstacle not with panic, but with poise. It is the quiet declaration that your story is still being written, and you are the one holding the pen. You are not here to reenact old scripts of defeat. You are here to create something new. And the moment you realize that, you step out of reaction and into authorship. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of living in accordance with nature. It is not nature as comfort, but nature as transformation. Nature burns, rebuilds, disrupts, and evolves. So must you. Let each setback become a signal. Let each trial become a turning point. The world may not offer you guarantees, but your posture, your decision to keep showing up, to keep believing, to keep creating meaning, that is unshakable. That is heroic. So choose to walk forward, not when the way is clear, but when your soul is ready. Choose to believe, not because you are naive, but because you are willing. And know this, when you summon the hero within, you do not merely survive your story, you rise to shape it with strength, with wisdom, and with unshakable purpose. 3. Action precedes belief. There is a subtle yet dangerous illusion that many live by, the belief that we must wait until we feel ready, confident, or fearless before we act. This illusion has delayed more dreams than failure ever has. People linger in indecision, expecting certainty to arrive like a signal from the sky, hoping for some internal permission slip from the mind before they step forward. But the Stoics would tell us otherwise. They would remind us that readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. Action does not follow belief. It creates it. The mind is not a passive receiver of emotion. It is an active participant, shaped by the choices we make. When you act as if everything works out for you, you're not engaging in deception. You're setting a precedent. You're telling your inner world, I may not yet feel certain, but I choose to move anyway. And this movement speaks more clearly than thought ever could. The mind is complex, but it responds to embodiment far more than contemplation. The Stoics understood this. They lived not to debate endlessly about virtue, but to embody it through daily discipline, through action grounded in intention. To walk into a room before you feel worthy, to speak before you feel eloquent, to rise even while fear whispers in your ear, is not falsehood. It is a declaration of strength. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are inviting who you truly are to emerge. The voice that trembles but speaks anyway carries more power than the one that waits for perfection. The one who moves despite doubt begins to chip away at the very structure of that doubt, not through argument, but through experience. Even modern observation confirms what Stoic insight has always claimed. A simple shift in physical posture, a lifted chin, open chest, steady stance, can influence not just your appearance, but your biochemistry. When the body takes a position of strength, the mind responds, cortisol decreases, confidence increases, but more important than the hormones is the behavior. People who adopted powerful postures became more willing to take risks. They acted, and in acting, they discovered a courage that no thought could have delivered beforehand. This is not a game of imitation, it is a ritual of awakening. The Stoics would have called it training the self through daily actions that align with the kind of life we seek. You stand upright not to impress others, but because uprightness is the posture of a soul that refuses to be owned by fear. You speak clearly not to dominate a room, but because clarity is what your dignity demands. These choices may seem small, but they ripple into the fabric of your identity. They tell your unconscious what kind of person you are becoming. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something born in the moment you move, despite the urge to freeze. It is not a gift, it is a reward, a consequence of refusing to bow to hesitation. Too many people stand at the edge of action, waiting for a sign that it is safe. But safety is not promised. What is promised is the freedom that comes from stepping forward anyway. Even a single act of boldness, made without applause, begins to rewire the self. The Stoic path is not paved with ease. It is carved through decision. I once knew a young man terrified of public speaking. His voice would crack. His hands would tremble. For years, he waited to feel ready, hoping the fear would vanish on its own. It never did. One day, after months of quiet reflection, He signed up to speak in front of a small group. He did not feel brave, but he stood up and spoke. And in that moment, something shifted. Not because the fear disappeared, but because he stopped obeying it. He continued speaking regularly, and though his fear never fully vanished, his strength grew larger than it. And with time, his belief followed his behavior. When you walk through life as if everything works out for you, your psyche does not argue. It observes. It watches how you speak, how you move, how you carry your burdens, and slowly, it rewrites the script. It no longer asks if you're capable. It accepts that you are. The body teaches the mind, and the world, in turn, begins to mirror that energy, not with immediate applause, but with subtle shifts. Doors open, people respond, circumstances arrange themselves not because you forced them, but because you resonated with something greater. The mind may tempt you to delay, but the soul is waiting for motion. The Stoics called us not to perfection, but to action. They taught that virtue is not an abstract idea, but a lived expression, and so we begin not by knowing, but by doing. The step creates the strength. The gesture awakens the faith, and the belief that once seemed so distant begins to feel like home. Do not wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect confidence. They are illusions designed to keep you still. Move as if life supports you. Walk as if the path is already unfolding. Speak as if your words have weight. And watch as slowly but surely the world begins to agree. 4. The strength of letting go. There is a quiet kind of power that is born not from control, but from release. Most people grip life with anxious hands, clinging to outcomes, timelines, and expectations shaped not by wisdom, but by fear. They confuse vigilance with strength and mistake control for mastery, but the Stoics understood something deeper. They knew that what weighs the mind down is not the presence of uncertainty, but our desperate attempts to eliminate it. Control, for all its appearance of power, is often fear dressed in discipline. And fear, when followed blindly, shrinks the soul. The paradox is clear. The harder you try to force life to your will, the more it resists. The more tightly you grip the steering wheel, the more you feel it spin out of your hands. It is not because life is against you, but because you have forgotten that life is not a machine to be driven. It is a rhythm to be joined. To act as if everything always works out for you is not to become passive or disengaged. It is not to sit back and hope. It is to give your full self to the moment with integrity and presence, and then to release what is no longer in your hands. It is the discipline of participation without obsession. It is the strength to care deeply without being consumed. The Stoics taught that peace is not found in outcomes, but in right action. You do what is yours to do, and then you let go. You do not tie your worth to applause or to whether the fruit appears in your lifetime. Think of the farmer. He tills the soil, plants the seed, waters with care, and then waits. He does not stand over the field screaming at the clouds or digging into the earth each day to inspect the roots. He knows the process is not his to rush. His wisdom lies in participation, not possession. His strength lies in trust, not tension. This detachment is not apathy. It is not withdrawal. It is a sacred form of clarity. It says, I will give my all, but I will not give my peace. I will serve this task, this person, this dream, but I will not bind my identity to its outcome. I will love and I will let go. I will try and I will surrender. This inner posture is not weakness. It is the courage to know the limits of your reach and to remain steady when the results lie beyond them. Many live with the illusion that worry is a form of control, that if they rehearse every possibility, predict every danger, prepare for every failure, they can avoid pain. But the Stoics saw this for what it is, a waste of energy, a misdirection of the will. Anxiety does not prevent collapse. It only robs you of clarity before the moment even arrives. The truth is that you were never asked to carry the entire world. You were asked to carry yourself through the world with integrity. So live with the poise of someone who knows where their power ends and life begins. Speak with honesty, act with courage, serve with care, and then release. Let the results come when they come. Let time shape what it must. When you release the obsession with controlling every variable, you create space for life to surprise you. You create space for peace to enter. You no longer chase peace by securing every outcome. You cultivate it by trusting the process, even when it feels invisible. There is an intelligence in this rhythm. There is a benevolence in this mystery. The Stoic doesn't believe that everything will go their way. They believe that they will be able to meet whatever comes with wisdom. They believe that even if life breaks the plan, it cannot break the self. And that belief, that sacred detachment, becomes the anchor in the storm. So live like the farmer. Do your part with care. Let your hands touch the soil of your work, and your heart remain open to the winds of change. Offer your best, not to control the outcome, but to honor your role. Let go not because it does not matter, but because it matters too much to be strangled by fear. This is the posture of one who trusts. This is the strength of sacred detachment. And when you live this way, the world begins to respond not with guarantees, but with grace, not with certainty, but with alignment, not always on your timeline, but always in your favor. 5. Belief shapes your field. There is an invisible current that moves through the fabric of our existence. It does not respond to commands or declarations, but to something far more intimate: belief. Not the kind of belief you chant in front of a mirror, nor the hollow affirmations whispered in moments of fear, but a quiet inner knowing that lives deep in the body, beneath the voice, beneath the thought. It is the frequency you carry before you ever speak, the subtle energy that enters a room before your footsteps touch the floor. And when you act as if everything always works out for you, you are not forcing reality into submission. You are aligning with this current. You are signaling to life not what you wish for, but what you are prepared to receive. This is not delusion. It is discipline. The discipline of showing up as someone who belongs, even when the world gives you no reason to feel that way. The one who enters not to be chosen, but as someone already chosen by life. That shift, so subtle on the surface, creates deep reverberations. People, events, opportunities do not simply respond to appearances. They respond to presence, to energy, to conviction. There is an old truth: doors open for those who knock, but fewer people understand that the way you knock matters. A hesitant knock driven by fear may never be heard, but a knock filled with quiet readiness, with presence, with a clear inner stance, sends a different signal entirely. Life listens differently when your belief is embodied. I once mentored a young man who had talent, intellect, and experience, but none of it translated into results. Every interview ended in disappointment. His posture, his voice, the way he answered, it all carried an undertone of doubt. He believed, quietly and deeply, that he was unworthy of success, and that belief filtered every word he spoke. The interviewers couldn't name it, but they felt it. It was not skill he lacked. It was alignment. I told him, stop trying to be chosen. Walk in as if you are already welcomed. Speak to connect, not to prove. At first, he resisted, but exhaustion softened his resistance, and he gave it one attempt. He made no changes to his resume, no edits to his story, only his posture shifted. He smiled more. He listened instead of performing. And most importantly, he let go of the fear that he didn't belong. That week, he was hired. This is not magic. This is the removal of internal resistance. This is the power of letting your belief precede your outcome. When you stop sabotaging your energy with self-doubt. When your inner narrative begins to match the posture of someone who trusts. The world takes notice. You stop sending mixed signals. You stop projecting rejection before anyone can reach you. You become someone who invites life in, not through force, but through presence. To believe that everything works out is not to deny difficulty, it is to hold a deeper stance. You act not to manipulate outcomes, but to resonate with truth. You say with your being, I am open, I am ready, I trust the rhythm I cannot yet see. And in that stance, life softens. It finds you more easily. People feel it too. They are drawn to the steadiness in you. Not arrogance, not performance, but calm, quiet certainty. This kind of belief does not scream, it radiates, and in its presence, others begin to remember their own worth as well. The Stoics taught us to align action with nature, and belief is part of that alignment. It is not wishful thinking. It is the inner discipline to move as if the truth you hold is already unfolding, not because you are owed anything, but because you understand your role is not to wait, but to participate fully. The world does not demand perfection. It asks for participation. It responds not to flawless strategy, but to sincerity. And when your belief is sincere, the path appears, the allies arrive, the clarity comes. Not because the external world changed overnight, but because you did. You stopped waiting to be chosen and chose yourself. You stopped searching for signs and became the sign. You stopped rehearsing worthiness and began to embody it. So act as if everything always works out for you. Not to trick the world into giving you something, but to finally meet it with trust. Not to control the outcome, but to honor your place in the unfolding. The belief you carry shapes the space around you, and when you hold it fully, quietly, with resolve, the world begins to reflect the strength it sees in you, not by accident, but by resonance. So here is your quiet choice. You can walk through life bracing for the storm, or you can move as if the wind is already guiding you forward, not because life owes you ease, but because that belief opens doors no fear ever could. Your posture speaks, your presence shapes, your faith invites. Act as if everything works out for you. Type "I trust life" in the comments. And if this message spoke to you, consider subscribing. Your journey is just beginning. The next step starts here.